All right. Hey, everyone. Give everyone a few more seconds to get shuffled in. All right. Awesome. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Alex, and I run Nashville Data Nerds. The purpose of Nashville Data Nerds is the education and working with data. So happy for all of y'all to come out and kind of join me and David Mello for our conversation around his work with Python and Tableau and changes in statewide elections. Thank you, David, again for leading this conversation. Real quick before we get started, some of you may have heard about Data Nerds, but I also like this to be a conversation. Unfortunately, while in person that works really well, unfortunately via Zoom, that's difficult for multiple people to talk at once. So as you have conversations, please post them to the chat. And what I will be doing is moderating. So as a question pops up and there's enough time, a nice breaking point, I'll pause David and ask those questions. Towards the end, the meetup, I do have like that last 15 minutes, which is time for like general discussion where we'll kind of open the floor up. But without further ado, David, I'll let you take it over.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming in today. My name is David Mello. I'm a relatively recent, June of last year, graduate of Nashville Software School, and this was my capstone project. I used both Python for most of the coding and then transferred in Tableau for the visualization. My approach today is going to go through the final project, kind of an overview, see what I did, and then go into one of the Jupyter notebooks for the Python coding and then back into Tableau a little. So without further ado, I'll share my screen. And everyone should see the screen, I assume.
Yeah, I can see it.
All right. All right, so I looked at Tennessee elections from 2018. I chose statewide elections because I wanted to look at the state voters as a whole rather than looking at gerrymandered voting districts for state rep and state house and U.S. House of Representatives. For data sources, Tennessee Secretary of State does election results and also statistics. Tennessee population estimates came from the U.S. Census Bureau. And there's another thing called voter eligible that is done by a professor at University of Florida. Election results are reported individually by year. They're downloaded as Excel spreadsheets or PDFs. Some of the PDFs I then had to convert online, which is a side story. They're sort of better. Some sites would take the same sheet and do them differently. So I had to use actually different converters for different sheets depending on which gave me the best results. Election data was initially clean in Excel, then further refined and joined in Python. Census data is Excel files, and visualizations were presented in Tableau. For this project, I wanted to look at Tennessee votes for statewide offices, president, governor, and U.S. Senate. And I was basically looking at two questions: how have Tennessee voters changed party preference from 2000 to 2018 in statewide elections, and how does population growth and voter participation affect elections in Tennessee? So Tableau is able to create various statewide maps. I grouped them by year rather than by race, so you could see the growth of voter switching as it progresses through the years. This is 2000 presidential, 2000 Senate, 2002 gubernatorial, and 2002 to US Senate. Sorry, I forgot what I was going to say. So it's 2000, 2002. This is 2004. You can see in the gubernatorial election, not a single county went Republican. There was a popular Democratic incumbent governor, and this was the last statewide race won by a Democrat in Tennessee. In 2008, the state swung hard Republican, red being Republican, blue being Democrat. Davidson County, which is Nashville, Shelby County are usually reliable Democratic, although Memphis, Shelby County, which is Memphis, did go slightly Republican in the US Senate race, but that was, again, a popular incumbent against an unknown. Presidential 2012, 2012 Senate, 2014. In this case, you can see, I don't believe I've part of my, let me switch my, there we go. This is kind of the height of the Republican takeover of Tennessee. Again, you see no Democrat won a county. (2016) presidential, 18 gubernatorial, and 18 Senate. Again, the lone Democrat counties are Davidson County, where is Nashville, Shelby County, where is Memphis, and this is a bedroom county of Memphis. I also wanted to look at population growth to see where the fastest growing counties were. These counties, the top, Williamson, Rutherford, Wilson, Montgomery, are all in the Nashville metropolitan statistical area. You can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the top 10 counties are all around Nashville, even though not Davidson County, which is Nashville proper, is not in the top 10 fastest growing counties. The others are around Memphis and Clarksville, Fort Campbell Army Base, and Knoxville. So the major urban centers, it's the counties just outside of those that are growing the fastest in Tennessee. These counties also have the higher voter participation. So this is adjustable by year from 2000. And as you can see, as you advance here, 2000 is a presidential race. 2002 is an off year, participation decreases. 2004, another presidential year, participation increases. 2006, off year, decreases. This pattern holds true until 2018, which, even though it's off year, had high voter participation. And you can see these counties that have the fastest growth. Here's Davidson County, where Nashville is. Here's Memphis, Shelby County, where Memphis is. Knoxville is Knox County right here. There's Knoxville. It's the counties, surrounding counties, that are seeing the biggest growth. And there's also the counties with the highest participation. And what this has meant is, in years, as we've come up in time, the suburban counties are going less Republican. The margins of victories in those counties is decreasing. Voter eligible participation, there's a professor, let me go back one page, called the Election Project. It's Dr. Michael McDonald of the University of Florida, United States Election Project. He estimates, he looks at population and what percentage of the population are eligible voters. So he takes out prison populations, felons who aren't allowed to vote, non-US citizens, and he comes up with a number that estimates how many eligible voters are in an area. This is voter eligible population, Tennessee, and US as a whole. So Tennessee tends to have a higher eligible population than the US as a whole, but the blue is We also have a percentage of voters and tend to have a higher than national average participation. Sorry, Tennessee is the blue. We have higher eligible voters, but we register at a lower rate and we participate at a lower rate than the US national average. I also looked at, again, this is a comparison of voter eligible. This is Tennessee voter eligible, registered voters, and total ballots cast. So you can see out of the eligible voters, population tends to, people participate, who register and participate is obviously there's a big difference. I also looked at how people vote with early voting, absentee voting, the thin line, and election day voting. As you can see in Tennessee, early voting has increased in the last couple of years. And it's becoming a more popular form of voting. So just conclusions, Tennessee statewide office elections were relatively competitive for Democrats through the 2006 election cycle. The 2008 presidential and 2010 midterm swung heavily to Republicans. 2012 and 2014 saw Republicans solidify control in the state. 2016-18 saw Republican support slip in the fastest growing counties, which are in metropolitan statistical areas. Tennesseans, although registered at a higher rate than the US as a whole, vote as a lower rate. And rising metropolitan populations combined with raised voter participation could further erode Republican election margins. And then areas that I could look at further, why did Tennessee voters swing strongly Republican? That would have to look at exit polls. Is Tennessee's population growth changing the following demographics: age, income, educational attainment, racial makeup, and sex? And that was the some of my project, and I'll pause here. Anyone's got any question at this point before I go into the Python coding?
I think you're good. Oh,
Okay.
I'm muted.
I was just going to
George?
say you're doing a great job.
Okay, thanks.
If there's 1 second before we move on, I guess I had a question. If you've ever used, I think you said you used Tableau for the mapping. Did you consider, have you looked at all how the pages work, where you can tell a story over time? So you could basically put the election year on the page, and then you could see a animated visual of the counties changing over 2 year, 4 year span.
Yeah, that's a step I want to go to. I had done a similar thing. It's an area of Tableau I haven't explored fully. As part of my program, I did a look at strikeouts and home runs over the years and animated that. But you could very easily take years and do an animated change, so you can see the county shift colors as the time progresses.
Cool. Yeah, sometimes I like when I realize I have a map and it changes over years, I like to do it that way. Sometimes you can see trends you might not otherwise see by static maps. Yeah,
and I think that's you're seeing those more and more. The New York Times uses those animated graphs all the time now, and you're seeing it more and more in media.
Another question we have. So Grady, are you? Okay, we'll do Chris. Okay, any specific vectors that show low voter utilization?
Clarify what you mean.
Yeah, I can clarify. I gave that was the shortest hand. Basically, I wanted to know, were there any like demographic groups? I know often people say like young voters tend to not vote as much, but was there anything that surprised you when you were looking through the data? It's like, why isn't this group voting, especially in like rural regions or anything like that?
That's a area further. I never broke it down. I looked at voters as a whole. I didn't break down into sex or age groups. I started to. It's a lot of census data, and those files are all separate from each other. So you've got to, it takes a little digging to get that information. And I just didn't have time when I finished my project to do it. But it is something I want to explore. I think one reason, and it's counterintuitive because you would suspect that the rural populations that are seeing, the rural counties that are losing population, the 10 bottom counties, and also tend to have lower voter participation. And I don't know, you would think a lot of rural counties tend to be aging, and older voters tend to participate at a higher rate than younger voters. So that's kind of a contradiction that could be explored, but I haven't explored it.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thanks.
All right, Grady, you had a question?
I did. Hey, David, Grady Robbins speaking.
Hey, Grady.
Hey. So yeah, awesome job. I loved your presentation. And, it's really kind of a hypothetical question for you. And I'm not sure if I expect any concrete answer, but, based on this presentation, supposing that you were tasked with increasing voter turnout in Tennessee, like how would you attack that? Would you go, what is the lowest hanging fruit? Would you go to the lowest percentage, or would you task the counties, or just curious about how you would approach that? Thank you.
Well, fortunately, I have a son who's a data person for the Alabama Democratic Party. And we've discussed this, and that's part of their voter turnout. They have found generally just voter drives that are done by the party. What did he say? Calling people. They have a whole voter rolls that they maintain, that both parties maintain. So they know who voted in their primaries. They don't know how you vote, but they know if you're a registered Republican or Democrat, and their get out the vote campaigns use these voter lists and direct call. My daughter worked on a campaign as a field organizer in Colorado this past election cycle, and it was all phone banking. And mostly it's just touching people, providing rides to mailers don't seem to work that well, they say. So it's mostly just grassroots get out the drive, get out the vote drives.
I'm really glad you said that. As someone who used to work on congressional campaigns, thanks for saying that. I was just curious because my NSS capstone was also about voting, but I was curious if there was a way for you to incorporate Cook's political. They offer political elasticity. Essentially, they track how far states, and I think they also offer that information for congressional districts, how far they swing towards like Republican or Democrat. Because with your specific project, I was just curious, like if you considered it or what.
I didn't know about Cook's. I did look at Pew Research Center does demographics on religious makeup and other graphs. So they maintain databases about some of that information. So they were going to be a source if I started getting into like religious groups, how they vote, that kind of stuff. The census does break down by income brackets and male, female, ethnicity. So that's where I would go for that information. But to get into deeper stuff, there are Cooks. I didn't know about Cooks, but there's Pew. There are other groups out there that have some of that information.
Yeah, and then I also had another question. What led you to like your choice of using counties over congressional districts?
I wanted to look at the electorate as a whole. So I look at statewide races, which are broken down, which you can't gerrymander a statewide race, whereas state reps, state senators, and US reps are in gerrymandered districts. So I think that skews the voting results, depending on how the precincts are and the congressional districts are gerrymandered. So I wanted to remove that as a variable.
Okay,
So that's why I chose it, just to look at the statewide races.
thank you.
Awesome. So we've taken a bit of a short break. So does anyone have any like quick last minute questions before David hops into the Python side of this? All right, David, I think you're good to go.
All right. Share. Come on. Why is it not sharing? There we go. Has everyone got full screen on that?
Good to go.
Okay. So today I was, actually, before I show you that, let me show you. This is the Excel file as it comes from the state of Tennessee. And you've got the county, you've got each precinct within the county, you've got the race, president, Senate, House of Representatives, you've got candidates' names, party, and how many votes they got, PV tally.
You're sharing the Jupyter notebook, not the Excel file.
Oh, I did this not, this is what I'm seeing on my screen. I wonder why. Oh, I know what I have to do. Sorry about that.
The mouse didn't seem to quite line up, and I had to like, oh yeah.
Okay.
There we go. Perfect.
There we go. So this is the Excel file, the CSV file, Excel, as it comes from the state of Tennessee. So you've got the county, you've got the precinct with each county. For each precinct, you have the race. You have the candidates, their party, and how many votes they got. And these go across, there are 10 columns, name 2, party 2, Republican, Democrat, write-ins, independents. And this goes across 10 columns. So they're AV are 40, I believe 42 columns wide, and they're 33, 13,000 lines. Yeah, about 13,000 lines. So it's not a huge file, but it's kind of complex. So back to so in Jupyter, I imported the file. I took out certain columns I knew I didn't want, like the precinct number. They're all individually numbered. And I kept the columns I wanted. So I read this in and I called it 10. This one I was working on today. This is the 2020 presidential. So imports it, and it basically you've got same thing, R name 1, party, point tallies by county, and multiple precincts within each county. And I just checked info to look at how much information was there and what types they were. So I wanted to merge all the name columns in a new column called name. So I would have just one column with each candidate's name rather than have them spread across 10 columns. And to do this, I used PD melt. So I created a name column, PD melt. The counties I wanted to keep are the ID vars, county, precinct, office name, elect date. The values I wanted to merge into one column were RNAME 1, RNAME 2, 3, 4, 5, up through, there were 10 of them. The value name in a new column called name. So that would combine all my candidates into one column. And when you do that, it creates a new column titled variable, which just says party one. I didn't need that column, so I dropped that column and took a look at the result. So now I have a county precinct, office name, the election date, and the candidate's name as one table. I want to do the same thing for the parties. So rather than have party one, party two, party three, I just wanted one column with everyone's party in it. So again, it's a melt. I kept the same 4 columns. I changed my value for vars to party 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to merge them all in. I called it party. Again, I eliminated that variable column that it automatically creates. And I got a table that has just their parties listed. Then I did the same thing with the vote counts, which is PV tally, kept the same 4 columns, merged all the counts into one column, which I called vote count, drop that variable column that melt creates. And then I want to combine these back into one table. So basically I called party, the party melt party column, PV tally, I renamed to vote count. And then I joined them to the name melt. And I get a table that has the county, the office, the election date, the candidate's name, what party they're in, and how many votes they got. And as you can see, there's still precinct, and there are multiple Anderson counties. This is just an info to check. I've got 131,290 lines. There are fewer because not every candidate has a name, and they're that candidate. So I'm going to clean that up. I just lowercase column names because why not? I changed null values in party to no party because there are a lot of nulls. As you can see, here's a party null value. So next series of steps is eliminating nulls. So I changed the nulls to no party, fill NA with no party in place equals true. Then I check the information again. Now you can see that my parties, they're the same number of non-null objects as my other columns. I want to change the values in vote count to NAs, because if there wasn't a name, there wasn't a vote, it's just an NA. Convert those all to zeros. And check it. Now I have 6,142 non-null names and non-null vote counts. Do the nulls in name correlate 1-to-1 with no party? I want to make sure that that's a 1-to-1 correlation. So I do name is NA, and it gives me this. And as you can see, name NA and no party, and vote count NA. It looks like I'm all good to go here. There's no positive numbers in either the name or the vote count or the party. So and just check info. I've got name 0 non-nulls, vote count 0 non-nulls, so that matches up. All my numbers or the other names and columns are the same. So I drop the rows with no name and vote count. So I drop NAs. I check my file. I've got same numbers. I've got values for everything across each column. And then I just take a look at the final just to be sure. And I notice that my vote count has a decimal on it. And there's no such thing as a 0.1 vote or 0.2 vote. So I want to make those whole numbers. So I changed it from a float 64 to an integer 32 to drop the 0.0. So final as type vote count in 32. And I check it, and now that decimal place is gone. Check my D types just to make sure they're what I want them to be. It's indeed an integer 32. And then I did a value counts, President, Senate, and it shows me how many count lines we have for each race. And I wanted to look at the unique races, and here's all the races: President, Senate, and then House of Representatives, Tennessee House. These are all the races covered by this file. And I check my final vote value count just to make sure everything has a value. 22,571 rows. I think I didn't change that. No, yes, right. Have a vote count of 0. So if there's no votes, I'm not interested in having it in the database. So I drop that and I reset the index number so that I could have continuous index numbers. And then I confirm that there are no 0 counts, and indeed the count starts at 1, whereas up here I had zeros. Okay, now at this point, I start separating out. And the reason I went this way is I wanted to preserve the original table. So if I wanted to go back and look at any other race, I've already cleaned it up to this point, and I can just pick a race and create a table from that. So this is all replicable. I could simply copy this notebook into a new notebook, run it up to this point, and then if I wanted to look at Tennessee House of Representatives, I can put in that race to a string match and just get numbers, get entries for that race by itself. So up here, it's a generic, and now I'm getting into specific races. So this is looking at the 2020 election race. So I do final office name string match as United States President. Again, I reset the index number, so I have continuous index numbers. And I just check the head and tail, and Kanye West. Looks like we're good to go. And I check the head just to make sure that just as another double check to make sure everything looks good. Now I want to add a vote count, add a column that has a total vote count, for use in calculating county vote percentages. So I'm going to group by election date, office name, county name, and party. And I'm going to sum the vote counts for each county, for each candidate within each county. Basically, I'm eliminating the precincts. Sort values by county and vote count. Ascending, I wanted them in descending order so that the person with the most votes comes out on top. And I reset the index again to get all my numbers consecutive. And print out a sample, and you can see now Wilson County has Trump, Biden, Joe Jorgensen. It has one person for each. The precincts are gone. It's just the county now and each person. And then it changed to Williamson County. So I know I don't have, like, before you had each county had multiple precincts. So now I've merged all the counties and dropped the precincts. So now I want to start creating find the percentages of the margin of victory for each candidate. So I'm creating a new data frame, county vote, to find the sum of votes per county. So I did a .loc 0 county and vote count. So it gave me a total vote count for each county, for each candidate within each county. And then I sum the votes, group by county and vote count, to get the total votes for each county. So now, whereas these are basically the counts for one candidate, the counts for the next candidate in that county, and the count for the next candidate in that county, et cetera. I sum those and group by sum vote sum county, group by county vote count, and sum all. And now I have a total of votes cast for each county. And now I'm adding a column onto my main data frame. So I create a some county vote column and add it and map it onto the county vote sum, so it uses the county name and matches up the totals for each person. Then I create a county vote percentage. Let me just run this. Okay, so this still has, yeah, has each candidate and their vote count and okay. I've lost myself for a minute, sorry. I'll come back to that. Here I looked at how many parties are represented, how many lines are 637 lines with independent, 95 Republican, 95 Democrat. There are 95 counties in Tennessee, so that's a good number. So this, I want to create a data frame, Tennessee 2000 county president percentage with percentage values per party per county. So I create a new data frame with reduced column values only. So I did election date, county, party, and percent county vote. So I have the election date, the county, the party, and the percentage county vote that party got in that county. Then I want to separate out the Republican votes counts only. So party equals Republican, reset index. And now I have Wilson County, 67.67% voters voted for Republican in Wilson County, Williamson, et cetera. Do the same thing. Renaming the percent county vote to Republican percent because I'm going to merge these all later, so I don't want to have duplicate names. And drop party column to prepare for merge. Axis equals 1 to show I'm dealing with a column. Then I do the same thing for the Democrats, where party equals Democratic party. So now I have the Democratic percentage for each party. And I rename again the column so I don't have duplicate names. And then create a data frame with non-Republican or Democratic parties. So all the remaining, if party equals independent or party equals no party, and it's going to count all those up and give me percentage for all the non-Republican, non-Democrat votes. Then I sum it by county because you can see here I have independents and no parties still. I have multiple entries for Anderson County, Wilson County, so I want to merge those. So I group by county, percent county vote and sum. And I get 95 counties, each with a number. And I rename it to other percentage. So I've got now have a column that says other by county, and then I merge all those three. So I join other to the one that already has Republican. So now I have Wilson County 67% Republican, 29.94 Democrat, and 1.81 other. So now I've got the percentage of the vote each party won in each county. And now I want to create a column for the Republican margin over the Democrat for heat mapping and Tableau. So the other is for information, but really I'm looking at the percentage, how much Republican would be to Democrat or vice versa. So I take Republican, I subtract the Democratic percent and come up with the margin and create a new column, Republican margin. Now, I got my shapefile from the Tennessee Department of Transportation, which maintains one. And they assign each county a number. And that number I need to use I need to append it to this column. So when I go to do my mapping in Tableau, it can refer to it. So I join the index number on county to my new map. So now I have county, the Republican percentage, Democratic percentage, other, the Republican margin of victory or loss, and an index number for that county. So this is why I need to create my Tableau. I check my information. I've got 94 null objects. So that looks good. Convert election date to date time from object. This also I found I needed to do, I believe for Tableau is why I did this. It was when I tried to select by date in Tableau, it wouldn't accept it. So I had to do, I had to convert election date from the date time to date time from object. And I put in the format year, month, day. And then I check the info to make sure it is indeed changed to a date time. And then I export this final file into my documents folder, and that's the file I'm going to use for my Tableau visualization. And just to show you the, hold on. Well, this isn't what I want to share. Hold on. Here we go. So this is the final file I come up with. It's got the election date, it's got the county, it's got Republican, Democrat, other, margin, and index number for the county for mapping, for creating the Tableau visualization. And at this point, I'll pause and before I go to the Tableau.
So David, we're actually coming up on time. So if you have any like wrap up comments, I'd like to open it up for any kind of open discussion. Anyone, I don't know what people's availability is. I'm happy to stick around for a bit longer.
Okay. Yeah, the main thing was my goal with the Python was to create a template that was replicable so I could switch easily from election to election once I cleaned up the data. And if, you know, working in a theoretical work world where I would have a boss that come, hey, I got good stuff on the presidential, but what did the Tennessee House 23 district look like? And I've still got all that information preserved in my original table, and I can just easily separate that out. And then just a couple of things in Tableau, using that T dot, you have to attach the two files, the two Excel files. You have to join them in Tableau, and then you can use them for creating the visuals. One of the problems I found out was Tennessee has some multiple name Van Buren, which has a space between the Van and the Buren, and McMinnville and McMahon, which don't have spaces between the Mick and Man, and I would get blank county. So double check your county names and make sure they're all standardized.
Awesome. Anyone have any open questions? Awesome. Well, we'll go ahead, wrap things up. Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, David, for speaking. And I will be gathering links from everything David talked about tonight and be sending as well as a recorded video of this posted to YouTube. And I should have that within the next week. Again, thank you everyone for coming out, and I'll see you next month.
Thank you.